Secretary and Chertoff Group Chairman, Michael Chertoff, who is in Washington for us this afternoon. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Sky News. What is the significance of Osama bin Laden's death, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, it closes a chapter, although not the entire book, in the war we have against Al-Qaeda and similar groups. Obviously, seeking justice for what happened on September 11th has been one of the top priorities of the U.S. government, and this achieves justice by assuring that the person who was the leader of that terrible terrorist attack is now meeting his maker. So that's a very good thing. I think it's a psychological positive development for the war against terror, but it is by no means the end of the book. We still face a very dangerous network of enemies out there.
Does it make your country more or less safe?
In the short run, this could lead to efforts to retaliate against Americans either here in the United States or perhaps even more likely overseas. And I'd be particularly focused on Pakistan, where there may be some reaction on the part of some people who are angry about the fact that American boots were literally on the ground in Pakistan. I think in the long run, it's going to force Al-Qaeda to deal with a leadership issue, who's going to take over and assume the mantle of leader. But we have to be honest and say that at this point there is a generation of people like Anwar al-Awlaki and others who are probably prepared to step forward and to continue these terrorist efforts.
In all reality, though, Mr. Chertoff, can it really be seen as anything more than symbolic? We've seen the FBI manage to change the front page of their website now, saying deceased underneath Osama bin Laden's name. But in all reality, is it anything more than just symbolic?
Well, I mean, it is clearly principally symbolic and psychological, but frankly, that's an important part of conducting a war or a campaign. It's hearts and minds. It's convincing people that in the long run, the West will not be intimidated by terrorism, that we will pursue those who carry out these terrible acts no matter how long it takes and no matter where they are. So I wouldn't underestimate the symbolic and psychological significance, but if you're asking me whether this somehow means that we're done and we've incapacitated the enemy, I think that's plainly not true. We still face a very formidable network that has lodged itself in various places around the globe.
How might do you expect Al-Qaeda to respond to what they would consider as the murder, others would describe as the assassination of Osama bin Laden?
I think we're going to see an effort to respond by carrying out violent acts around the world. Whether they do it in the U.S. or in Britain or in other places obviously depends on our vigilance. But they'll want to send a message that they are still very much in the fight and that they're still a very potent adversary. I also think I have a suspicion that you'll start to see conspiracy theories circulating where they'll claim that bin Laden's not really dead, and some of that will circulate around as well. But clearly this is a psychological blow because it shakes the faith of people who are adherents that bin Laden somehow is above the fray. But I would expect in the short run at least to see efforts to retaliate.
Although presumably the DNA testing that is likely to be available over the next couple of days will probably clarify whether or not it was Osama bin Laden that was buried at sea at 7:30 this morning.
I think for most people that will do the trick, but my experience is that around the world there are people who manage to hold conspiracies close to their heart, notwithstanding all the evidence to the contrary. So I think for some it'll never be enough because they'll want to believe that bin Laden is still with them. But I agree that for most rational people, the DNA evidence will be conclusive.
Just hearing that it was described actually by officials as a kill, not capture mission, as had been predicted by many. I wonder what the relationship will be now between the US and Pakistan. Pakistan having said for many years that they were absolutely 100% confident that Osama bin Laden was not on their territory.
Well, I think this is one of the big issues we're facing in the next weeks and months. I have no reason to believe that the senior political or military leadership was aware of bin Laden's presence, but naturally the question will arise how bin Laden could be in a compound not very far from a military training installation with nobody having any clue about his whereabouts. And that raises the question whether there are elements within Pakistan that might be sympathetic to bin Laden or to similar extremists. So I think that's going to be an issue which the Pakistani government will have to wrestle with, and which will be, I'm sure, a matter of real concern to the U.S. government in dealing with Pakistan going forward.
Mr. Chertoff, thank you very much indeed for sparing the time to talk to us this afternoon. Thank you.
Good to be on.
Thank you.